Welcome to the deep dive. Our mission really is simple. We cut through the noise, get you the knowledge you need on, well, complex
And
topics.
hopefully do it efficiently
Yeah,
without the usual headache.
exactly. Today, we're plunging into data security. It's always critical, right? We're looking at the fresh approaches, the new ways people are tackling threats that just seem to get smarter all the
They
time.
really do.
And just so you know, this deep dive is brought to you by Stonefly. They're leaders in enterprise storage, backup, disaster recovery, AI storage, cloud solutions too.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're looking for storage that can really stand up to anything, think ransomware. Stonefly has air-gapped and immutable options. You can check them out. Just contact sales at stonefly.com to schedule a demo.
Good to know.
Hmm.
Because in this landscape, standing still, that's basically falling behind. We've seen it for years, how reactive cybersecurity just leaves you exposed.
Yeah, playing catch-up constantly.
Right. And that Equifax breach back in 2017, that really hammered home the sheer scale of impact these
Yeah.
attacks can have. And now we've got advanced persistent threats, zero-day attacks popping up all the time. Plus, there's this global shortage of cybersecurity skills. The old ways, the old playbooks, they just aren't cutting it.
Absolutely. It really does feel like, trying to patch a sinking ship during a hurricane. So the big shift we need to unpack today is this move towards getting proactive
Mm.
ahead of the curve.
Preventative strategy.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the goal.
Okay, so let's start with the battlefield itself. How much has the way we work actually changed?
Oh, massively. Even just in the last few years, we're basically living and working through SaaS applications now, right?
Yeah.
So much data, so many workflows are in the cloud.
And hybrid work is just standard now.
It is. And then you layer on Gen AI tools.
Hmm.
They're incredibly powerful, super promising, but, well, they've also opened up new doors for security risks. Maybe unintentionally, but they're there.
And the thing tying all this together, the main interface for pretty much everything,
I know.
it's the browser.
It really is. It's become the central hub. There's research out there showing, I think it was Forrester, something like 83% of employees feel they could do most, maybe even all, of their work right in the browser.
Wow, 83%.
Yeah. So naturally, that makes the browser a prime target, a huge potential weak spot we really need to focus on.
Okay, so when we talk about browser-specific risks, what are we actually dealing with? What kind of threats?
It's quite a range. You've got the obvious stuff like users getting tricked into visiting malicious websites, the ones designed to steal your login details or drop malware.
Phishing, basically.
Phishing, yeah, but also exploiting vulnerabilities in web apps themselves. And then there's the growing issue of data leakage. Sensitive info getting out, maybe accidentally, maybe not, through web forms, through SaaS, even through these new Gen AI tools.
That sounds like a lot of ways things can go wrong. And you mentioned earlier that our current security toolkit often falls short here.
Yeah, that's the tricky part. We have endpoint security, we have firewalls, network stuff, all essential. But they often lack that really deep visibility, that granular control needed for what happens inside the browser session itself.
Oh.
It's like they secure the perimeter, but not always the final interactions happening right there on the screen, that last mile, so to speak.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, let's zoom in on something you touched on, data leak prevention. It feels super relevant with these browser risks. First off, what exactly is a data leak? How's it different from, say, a data breach?
Good question. It's a key distinction. A data leak is fundamentally an unintentional exposure of sensitive info. Could be digital, could even be physical papers left lying around.
So like an accident.
Often, yeah. It's not necessarily a direct cyber attack. It might stem from weak security, maybe misconfigured software, maybe just human error. Think of it like leaving your front door unlocked.
Wow.
A data breach, though, that's deliberate. That's an attacker actively trying to break through your defenses.
So the leak kind of smooths the path for the attacker, makes their job easier.
Precisely. If sensitive data, like login credentials, leaks out, criminals can potentially just grab it and walk right in. They get to skip a whole bunch of steps in the usual cyber kill chain.
Right. Why pick the lock if the key's under the mat?
Exactly. There was a study, UpGuard, I think, a couple of years back, found nearly half of the Fortune 500 companies they looked at were leaking data in public documents. Stuff attackers could easily find.
That's concerning.
It is. And remember that Microsoft Power App issue. A simple misconfiguration exposed millions of records. Just an oversight.
Wow. So what are the common culprits? How do these leaks actually happen day to day?
Oh, lots of ways, unfortunately. Misconfigured software is a big one. Social engineering, tricking employees still works depressingly well.
Always the human element.
Always.
Mm.
Weak passwords, reused passwords.
Mhm.
Still a major problem. Physical theft or loss of laptops, phones. Software vulnerabilities, even if not actively exploited for a breach, can sometimes expose data. And then you have insider threats, sometimes malicious, sometimes just accidental.
And the type of data getting leaked, is it mostly customer PII or?
It's broad. Definitely customer, personally identifiable information, names, addresses, bank details, IDs, all that. But also company secrets, internal memos, marketing plans, product designs, source code,
Trade secrets, yeah.
trade secrets, exactly. Even analytics data about customer behavior might seem harmless, but in the wrong hands.
Right, it can reveal patterns, vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
So where does all this leaked data end up? The dark web.
A lot of it, yeah.
Huh.
Dark web forums are basically marketplaces for this stuff. Cyber criminals buy, sell, trade compromised information there. But we're also seeing more data pop up on ransomware blogs.
Ah, the naming and shaming
Yeah,
sites.
exactly. If a company gets hit by ransomware and refuses to pay, the attackers often dump the stolen data publicly on these blogs to pressure them.
And you mentioned before that finding data on those blogs could give attackers a direct way in.
That's a really critical point. If employee login details are part of that leaked data dump on a ransomware blog, well, any attacker finding them could potentially just log straight into the company network.
Wow, okay, so they bypass all the initial hacking stages.
Instantly. It dramatically cuts down the attack time and effort. Really highlights why finding and fixing these leaks before they get exploited is so crucial.
So it's not just about stopping the break-in, it's damage control, even if something does leak. What proactive steps should organizations be taking right now?
Being proactive isn't really optional anymore, it's baseline. You need comprehensive attack surface monitoring. Continuously scanning your own systems, yes, but also your third-party vendors.
Ah, the supply chain risk.
Huge risk.
Uh,
Over half of breaches apparently start with a compromised third party, so your data leak prevention has got to extend to them. Check their security posture.
okay, that makes sense. So looking ahead, say, to 2025, what are the key actionable tips for preventing data leaks?
All right, let's break it down. 1. Seriously evaluate your third-party risk. Vet them thoroughly. 2. Monitor network access relentlessly. Look for anything weird.
Baselines and anomalies.
Exactly. 3. Know your data. You have to identify where your sensitive stuff is, classify it. Can't protect what you don't know exists. 4. Secure your endpoints. Laptops, phones, tablets, especially with remote work everywhere.
Don't forget IoT.
Good point, IoT too. 5. Implement proper data loss prevention or DLP software. That helps identify, monitor, and block sensitive data from leaving.
What does DLP software typically involve?
It usually has about 6 core components, things like data identification, monitoring data in motion, data at rest, data in use, policy enforcement, and reporting. 6. Encrypt everything sensitive. It's not foolproof on its own, but it's a vital layer.
Defense in depth.
Precisely. 7. Permissions. Regularly review who has access to what. Least privilege principle, always. And finally, number 8. Continuously monitor vendor security. Use security ratings, questionnaires, audits. Keep checking.
That's a solid list. Okay, let's pivot a bit. There's a lot of buzz around AI as a potential solution here. How is artificial intelligence being viewed as maybe a game changer in cybersecurity?
Well, AI offers a fundamentally different way to tackle security problems.
Yeah.
At its heart, AI, machine intelligence, it can learn from enormous amounts of data, spot patterns, make decisions, things traditional rule-based systems just struggle with.
It's more adaptive.
Much more. And it works on a kind of spectrum. You have assisted intelligence AI, helping humans do tasks better, augmented intelligence AI, empowering humans to do things they couldn't before, and then autonomous intelligence systems acting on their own.
So how are these different AI flavors actually being used in cyber defense?
We're seeing quite a few techniques. Expert systems, they try to mimic human expert decision-making, good for real-time monitoring, decision support.
Like a digital analyst?
Sort of, yeah. Then there's machine learning, which is huge. Systems learning from data without being explicitly programmed for every single rule. Amazing for spotting anomalies, finding patterns that signal an attack.
That sounds powerful.
It is. Deep learning, using complex neural networks like our brains, is fantastic with massive data sets, finding really intricate threat patterns. And even things like biologically inspired computation, using ideas from nature to solve tricky problems like anomaly detection.
Okay, so what are the big advantages AI brings to this fight? Why use it?
Speed and scale are massive ones. AI can analyze security data way faster than humans, millions of events versus maybe hundreds. It can learn from past attacks to predict, maybe even prevent future ones, even totally new ones.
Catching 0 days.
Potentially, yeah, by
Okay.
spotting the unusual patterns. It handles a sheer volume of data logs, alerts that would just drown human teams. And critically, it keeps learning. It adapts as the threats adapt.
But it can't be perfect, right? What are the downsides or challenges?
No, definitely not perfect. AI needs tons of good data to train on, plus serious computing power. That's a barrier for some. It can also generate false positives, false alarms,
Alert fatigue.
big time. That can make security teams ignore real alerts. And maybe the biggest worry is adversarial attacks. Attackers specifically trying to trick the AI, feed it bad data, make it misclassify threats.
Ah, attacking the defender.
Exactly. So it's powerful, but not a silver bullet. Needs careful implementation.
So putting it into practice, how is AI actually being used right now to detect, stop, respond? Can you give examples for different threat types?
Sure. Take malware and software exploits. AI, especially machine learning and deep learning, is used to scan code for vulnerabilities, classify malware based on behavior, even spot brand new malware families.
Okay. What about network intrusions?
AI is great there too. It learns what normal network traffic looks like for your specific environment. Then it flags anything that deviates anomalies that could signal an intrusion and makes traditional intrusion detection systems, or IDS, much smarter.
And phishing, spam, those constant annoyances.
Yeah, AI is getting really good at that. Using techniques like neural networks, Bayesian filters, it analyzes email content, sender reputation, links, attachments,
Right.
much more accurately filtering out malicious emails and websites than older methods.
So it sounds like AI is touching almost every part of cybersecurity. Are there specific approaches that seem particularly promising right now?
Definitely. Threat detection and classification is a big one, using known indicators of compromise, but also subtle behavioral analysis. Network risk scoring is another, using AI to figure out which parts of your network are most vulnerable so you can focus resources there.
Prioritization.
Exactly. And automation. Automating routine security tasks, filtering alerts, augmenting human analysis, letting the AI handle the grunt work so human experts can focus on the really complex threats. That's delivering huge value.
Let's dig into one specific use case you mentioned, using machine learning to spot malicious websites. Why is that such a big deal?
Well, think about how many new websites pop up every second. It's impossible for traditional blacklists, just lists of known bad sites, to keep up.
They're always out of date.
Instantly. Attackers just register new domains, slightly change URLs, and boom, they bypass the blacklist. It creates this huge window of risk.
And machine learning can adapt to that.
That's the idea. Instead of just relying on a list, ML models learn the characteristics of malicious URLs. They analyze the structure, the words used, the patterns.
The look and feel of the address itself.
Kind of, yeah. By learning what features statistically correlate with known bad URLs, they can often identify new malicious sites, ones never seen before. It's like recognizing a shady neighborhood, even if you haven't been down that specific street. Blacklists can't do that.
That sounds way more effective.
Yeah.
What kind of ML models are used, and what features are they looking at?
Researchers have tried all sorts: K-nearest neighbor, random forest, decision trees, logistic regression, SVM, common ML algorithms. They feed these models lexical features of the URL.
Lexical features.
Things like, how long is the URL? Does it have lots of numbers or weird characters? Are there suspicious keywords like login or secure paired with strange domains? How many dots or slashes? Stuff like that. Interestingly, some studies found simpler models like KNN actually performed really well, quite consistently.
So it's not always the most complex model that wins. How important is choosing the right features? Does that feature engineering make a big difference?
Oh, absolutely critical. Pimping the right features,
yeah.
sometimes creating new ones from the raw URL data. That's often more important than the specific algorithm. People have experimented with hundreds of lexical features.
Like what?
Basic counts, yeah, but also more advanced things. Some research uses natural language processing to give URLs benign or malicious scores based on word patterns, trying to see if it sounds like a bad URL. One study used like 78 lexical features plus 300 features derived from word embeddings and these novel scores.
Trying everything. So it's a cycle, right? Train the model, test it, tweak it.
Exactly. You train on a big data set of known good and bad URLs. Then you validate it on a separate set to tune it. Then you test it on data it's never seen before to see how well it generalizes to the real world.
Does it work well across different types of malicious sites?
That's key, the cross-dataset analysis. You need to ensure it's not just good at spotting, say, phishing URLs from one specific campaign, but works broadly. It's interesting, some studies found those really complex features like word embeddings didn't always generalize well to new data sets. Sometimes the core lexical features were more reliable.
Fascinating. Okay, this is all great background on the challenges and the tech. Now, I want to shift to a specific solution that seems designed to address many of these browser-focused issues. LayerX. What is LayerX exactly?
Right. LayerX positions itself as this all-in-one but crucially agentless security platform. It's delivered as a browser extension.
So, not separate software to install.
No, it hooks into the browser you already use. The goal is to protect against risks from GenAI, SaaS apps, general web threats, identity theft, data leaks, all those things we've been talking about. And importantly, they aim to do it without messing up the user's experience.
Integrates with standard browsers then. Chrome, Edge.
Yep. Chrome, Edge, Safari, Firefox, the main ones. They call it a last-mile security solution because it focuses specifically on securing the activity happening right there in the browser session.
Okay, so that's different from those enterprise browsers or work browsers we sometimes hear about.
Totally different. Those replace your standard browser entirely. LayerX is a lightweight extension that runs on your existing browser, much less disruptive for users.
And the people behind it, do they have a background in this area?
Very much so. The founders come from the web attack and defense world. The CEO, or head, actually exposed a major Chrome browser attack campaign previously, so they definitely understand the browser threat landscape intimately.
Okay, that adds credibility. What are the core capabilities? What does it actually do for an organization?
It covers a lot of ground. GenAI security controlling sensitive data going into those tools, web and SaaS DLP, plus insider threat protection for browser activity. It finds and blocks risky browser extensions, another vector we discussed.
Right, the malicious add-ons.
Exactly. Secure browsing against phishing and malware. Discovering and securing shadow SaaS, those apps employees use without IT approval. Enabling secure access for remote workers, BYOD contractors, and identity protection, mitigating credential theft risks.
That's a pretty wide net. How does it manage all that just from an extension? What's the tech behind it?
It's basically three parts. The extension itself acts as the sensor, watching activity, and the enforcer, applying policies. Then there's the Plexus engine, that's their analysis engine, running partly in the extension, partly in the cloud, analyzing events in real time.
And the third part?
The cloud management console. That's where admins set the policies, see reports, manage the whole thing.
You mentioned the Plexus engine does deep session analysis. What does that mean? How's it different?
Yeah, that's key. It monitors events at the application layer inside the browser. So it's not just looking at the website address, the URL, it's looking at the actual interactions within the web page clicks, form fills, uploads, downloads, copy-paste actions.
Ah, so much deeper than just blocking a bad domain name.
Way deeper. It gives much more granular visibility and control compared to, say, network security that just sees encrypted traffic going to a domain, or even some endpoint tools that don't have that in-browser insight, like reading the content of the letter, not just the address on the envelope.
Okay, that granularity sounds powerful. Can you give some concrete examples? How are companies actually using LayerX for these different problems?
Sure. Let's take GenAI DLP. That's a hot topic. LayerX can see and control sensitive data, whether it's text being typed or files being uploaded going into tools like ChatGPT.
How does it do that better than traditional DLP?
Traditional DLP often struggles with copy-paste, which is how most people feed data into GenAI right now. LayerX monitors those actions within the browser context. So you can set policies like block using unsanctioned AI tools, stop employees using personal accounts for AI, control what text or files can be uploaded, manage AI browser extensions.
Very relevant right now. What about those risky browser extensions themselves?
LayerX tackles that head-on too. It discovers all extensions installed across the company, monitors their real-time behavior, and can automatically block risky ones. And it goes beyond just the extension ID. It looks at permissions, where it came from, calculates a risk score, watches what it actually does.
More granular than just allow a block list for extensions.
Much more. So you can audit extensions, assess risk, set fine-grained policies, scan continuously, and prevent things like credential theft by malicious extensions.
Okay, and SaaS security with apps everywhere.
Right. It discovers all SaaS apps being used sanctioned or shadow IT, maps users and identities to them, monitors activity within the apps, enforces policies to prevent data theft or weird behavior. This goes beyond traditional CASBs, which often only see sanctioned apps and are more reactive. LayerX sees everything happening in the browser, sanctioned or not, and builds behavioral profiles.
So it spots anomalies in how people use SaaS. What about identity? You mentioned shadow identities.
Yeah, identity security posture management. It finds weaknesses like employees using personal accounts, shadow identities, or non-SSO corporate accounts for work apps. Gives you a central view of who's using what account, password hygiene, ODU permissions, SSO status.
So it helps enforce things like SSO.
Exactly. It can detect reused or compromised passwords, discover those shadow accounts, push users towards SSO, spot signs of account takeover, apply risk-based controls, even act as an extra authentication step sometimes.
Okay, and back to basic data leakage, just moving files around on the web.
Addresses that too. WebSay's DLP and insider threat. It prevents sensitive data leakage via web uploads to risky sites, downloads to personal devices, copying data into web forms. It controls both file uploads, downloads, and non-file data, like copy-paste, across managed and unmanaged devices.
Unmanaged too. How?
Because the control point is the browser extension, which can be deployed even on BYOD devices accessing corporate resources. So you can stop sensitive files going to personal cloud storage, restrict sharing sites, control multi-tenant SaaS usage, get visibility everywhere.
That covers a lot. What about actual web attacks phishing? Malware delivered via websites? Zero-day stuff.
They call it zero-hour protection. It aims to detect and block sophisticated web attacks in real time, going beyond simple URL filtering or slower deep packet inspection. Because it analyzes at the application layer in the browser, it can see malicious code execution or phishing tactics unfolding on the page itself and apply granular controls right there without killing performance.
Like stopping a malicious script from running on a specific part of the page.
Potentially, yeah. Or prompting the user if they're about to enter credentials on a suspicious-looking page. It enhances email security, too, by analyzing links clicked in emails when they open in the browser.
Okay, one last scenario. Remote workers, contractors, BYOD, always a headache for security and access.
Right. LayerX helps secure access for them without needing traditional VPNs in many cases. It uses the browser itself as an extra authentication factor and enforces granular access policies based on user, device, risk level, data sensitivity.
So you could allow a contractor access to a specific SaaS app via the LayerX protected browser, but block downloads on their unmanaged device.
Exactly that kind of granular control. It enforces least privilege, can trigger step-up authentication if it detects risk, restricts activities on unmanaged devices, prevents the device itself from interacting maliciously with the website, all within the browser session.
This sounds like a really comprehensive approach, tying a lot of loose ends together. Has LayerX gotten much market attention or funding?
They have. They recently got an $11 million extension to their Series A funding, bringing their total to $45 million. That's pretty significant.
Yeah, definitely.
And the funding is specifically to boost their position in this secure enterprise browser space. Although, as we discussed, they're emphasizing the extension approach, positioning it as less disruptive than replacing the whole browser like some competitors say, Island.
All right, you mentioned their CEO's quote about the SSE tax versus disruptive browsers.
Exactly. Or Eshad framed it as enterprises facing this choice. Either the complexity and maybe performance hit of traditional secure service edge suites, or the major upheaval of forcing everyone onto a proprietary work browser. LayerX, he argues, provides those essential last-mile user guardrails within the browser people already use, avoiding both extremes.
And are companies actually buying into that? Are they deploying it?
Apparently, yes.
Yeah.
They report businesses are using LayerX either to supplement existing security tools or, in some cases, actually replace parts of their traditional SSE stack. It suggests companies are increasingly seeing the browser itself as that critical point for security control.
Okay, so wrapping this up, this deep dive really highlights how central the browser has become.
Yeah.
It's the main stage for work, but also a huge target.
Absolutely. And traditional security just struggles to keep up with SaaS, with Gen AI, with these modern threats playing out inside the browser.
We've seen why proactive data leak prevention is so vital, how AI can help boost defenses.
And how solutions like LayerX are trying to tackle this specifically, using the browser itself as the security platform, offering that deep visibility and control without, hopefully, driving users crazy.
It really boils down to securing that browser experience, doesn't it? It's not just an add-on anymore. It feels fundamental for any solid security posture today.
That's the core message, I think. You really need to look hard at how you're protecting activity within the browser in this cloud and AI era.
It definitely leaves you with something to think about. How is your organization managing these browser-centric risks? Is there maybe a more streamlined, less disruptive way forward, perhaps with a dedicated browser security solution? Food for thought. And remember, this deep dive was brought to you by Stonefly leaders in storage, backup, DR, AI storage, and cloud. For that secure, ransomware-proof storage, air-gapped, immutable, check out sales@stonefly.com to schedule a demo. Thanks for diving deep with us.